Good afternoon. Welcome back to Apocalypse and Genesis. Today I thought we could talk about what the ancients thought of the Lion's Gate, a big day of magical transformation when the world gets changed, when God waves his hand and the great sinners of the world suddenly depart and survivors get back to the much more basic game of scratching out a living on a pretty hostile planet. Today we snicker at the idea of cavemen, unable to comprehend that they too had watched civilization disintegrate, took cover as long as needed, then started over with cities on the other side of the planet. The gate was a day of light 6,400 years ago. A great dark star lit up in the presence of a powerful smaller one. Aleph flew to the top of the heaven, and a lion's paw raked the sky to the bottom. Day of the Shema, a day the tree of life fell. Cassiopeia switched sides. I suspect the father carried the sons of fire back home, and the Lion of Judah stayed behind to tend the remaining flocks. Something like that. The world is about to change. The sky is supposed to do in a day what would normally take 6 months. We were warned this time, Aries and Capricorn to each side of Aquarius, a pelting by space rocks will again ensue. I believe the piece on the left top is Bactrian. The piece to the right is from the Dos Marquesas Islands. Note the handles for the one on the right. The knots of Tiet suggest we don't truly know which way the sky will spin this time, left or right. Whatever the landmass does, the sky must do the opposite. We know the internal North Pole wants to head toward Anchorage, but does that imply anything beyond temperature changes for the rest of us? Bottom right, you can see that coming symmetry of the planets and the pillars of creation at the Kur, the mountain where Nergal, Dumuzi, or Tammuz must rise again. Meanwhile, his wife Venus Inanna shouts to enter the underworld. Gatekeeper, lo, open thy gate that I may enter. If thou openest not the gate to let me enter, I will break the door. I will wrench the lock. I will smash the doorposts. I will force the doors. I will bring up the dead to eat the living, and the dead will outnumber the living. The shell is from North America, the cartouche, Canaan, the hieroglyph, Egypt, the stone image, Mexico. But what is implied by all the images is a quick reversal. The Elhaz rune on the Indian shell belongs to the Hay of Aquarius, not Leo. Look carefully at the shell, and you can see the shepherd's crook of Orion changes sides. On the cartouche, can you see Aries has flipped sides at the same time as Orion? The lion's paw has traded places with the triangle of Aries, who has returned to being the index of the zodiac. Heron's hand stays to his right, but to do that the world spins. The scepter signifies the beam going off at Sirius, unifying Aten and Amen, Venus and Jupiter. Thoth's hat points to the same planetary and stellar symmetries as the others. Read your flood accounts and think about how the water on the planet could suddenly climb over the mountains, as in that movie 2012. The only way for that is for the ocean spinning 1,000 miles an hour to suddenly turn on us. I'm not saying it has to happen later this month, but that is how it was done and roughly in this time. Did you notice the curlicue on the Ohuelan stone has gone west? I believe the owner of that symbol was Bull of Heaven, the Most High to Sumeria and Canaan and the early Hebrews. Orion, El, Mars at Taurus. In one day, he crossed the heavens. Imagine the resulting earthquake and tidal wave. During the Black Death, they thought they were dealing with the hand of God. This piece was from it was called the Handel Heller, a small thin coin minted by the Swiss, the Austrians, and eventually the Holy Roman Empire. I was attracted to this one for its reverse, a cross of the Aquarian hay or lion's paw dancing around Virgo sporting a double star. I believe that's exactly what we were about to see. And yet, here they were telling us about it nearly 1,000 years ago. Half a precession ago, around 10,500 BC, in the day a beam from Orion struck Virgo or Leo, and the phoenix rose above the sun, Leo and Taurus got totally flipped around. What was west went east, what was north went south, as above, so below. Notice the lions, you can call them Nemesis and Nibiru. They dined on the old sun, which I guess means the hyenas and foxes and maybe my neighborhood's mountain lions and coyote were soon dining on us. I wonder what cats and dogs do when you don't feed them. It was high time for a new world. The righteous ones went home. The damned lost their minds and got to start over from scratch. My ancestors in Siberia and North America remembered the time as having gotten acquainted with what they called the water jaguar. Hard to pronounce her Indian names. I think one was like Sagagala, but note the lightning behind the Siberian lioness. The story on the Columbia Plateau was that our chief was a woman. She was worried about what would happen to her people when she departed. Coyote came to her and told her women would no longer be chiefs. He turned her into a stone and said, "Now you shall stay here forever, watching over your people and the river." On the stone at the bottom, can you see the rise of Thunderbird and Crux above the lioness? They will rise again very soon, though I can't tell you for sure in what quarter of the sky we'll see them first. Some 6,400 years later, they appear to have been seen in Taurus when the beams slayed the bull. The images on the left and across the bottom are from France, Lascaux and Longéribas. That's the sword-piercing Baladad on the top right, basically Mithras slaying the bull, as it were. On the antlers from Longéribas, can you see the pole shifts? Taurus changed places with Pegasus. Another time, Pegasus traded places with Leo, as on the Middle Eastern seal. You and I have a prejudice. We think the world will ever be as our grandparents knew it. We can't conceive there are cycles of fire and flood and meteor storm and earthquake and disease, but there are. And they're all due back. Maybe not this month, but this year, I'm pretty sure that's what the stars are saying. Read your scriptures to be sure. Don't trust some addled old guy obsessed with Armageddon. The Samothracians told us to expect the great light between Taurus and the new first of Aries, which has finally made it to the cusp of Aquarius after 6,400 years. Now ends the Kali Yuga of the Age of Iron. Now the Kalki Avatar is supposed to come rid the world of evil. For whenever there is a withering of the law and an uprising of lawlessness on all sides, then I manifest myself. For the salvation of the righteous and the destruction of such as do evil, for the firm establishing of the law, I come to birth in age after age. Bhagavad Gita 4. Or, behold, I send my messenger, and he will prepare the way before me. And the Lord, whom you seek, will suddenly come to his temple. Even the messenger of the covenant in whom you delight. Behold, he is coming, says the Lord of hosts. Malachi 3:1. I could be terribly mistaken, and it wouldn't be the first time, but the vibes I get from the Taino and the Mississippians and Hollywood is that when the axe falls, Heron will be seen at Aquarius wearing the new first of Aries, and the serpent who was briefly raised on high will be thrown down. What happens after that, I can't tell you. The flood goddess Pachamama appears to be having a baby, and that baby might be the little bat god they called Kamazots. Remember, the day of the Lord brought 3 days of darkness. Well, that would be Kamazots. I suspect there is something in the story of El and Enki they didn't tell us, a huge difference between Ea and his son Marduk, or mysteries in the scriptures like the cornerstone rejected will become the head of the vault. In other words, we may be stuck with whatever comes in the reversal. A dragon takes off and you inherit the beast. You thought this might be your age of Aquarius, but maybe you are destined to see the world like you were born in Australia. My suspicion is that we're about to visit the underworld, and the question is, how long do we get to stay? Maybe we can erect a new Stonehenge or Sphinx or Göbekli Tepe to attempt to warn our descendants. Maybe they'll even heed the advice better than we did. I believe we've discussed how the beam of light that transforms the world with ekpyrosis was seen near Sirius or Omega Orionis. My ancestors thought it the eye of Canis Major, the eye of the unicorn Monoceros, the wrist of the hand of God, and the eye of the eagle. The Egyptians knew it was very near the scroll of Thoth, the scepter of Osiris, and the star of Isis. Jesus called it the Queen of the South, come to judge us. I truly believe it's about to happen. Note that at Konar Sandal, Iran, Omega Orionis is lit up above the M42 nebula. Gilgamesh has flipped the world on the lions as our bowl of heaven. Notice that my Native American ancestors looked at Orion sort of like your Hebrew ancestors placing the shepherd's crook as drawing special attention to Saif, the thumb of Orion, and drawing the letter L from their first name of God as a reflection of the Resh near Polaris. I believe that we're headed back to the old equator. It's a secret of Genesis 1, verse 2. The Spirit of God moving upon the face of the waters is the Resh, Ursa Minor, descending with Cassiopeia, the Kaf, and Draco, with the heron and serpent in tow as the Rock Elohim to darken the earth, drive the winds, and gather at the horizon to meet the Milky Way. I believe we are fast approaching the whole point of 120 years of tracking signs. Forgive me for having done such a terrible job of it. It's not something we're trained to do anymore. The synagogue, the church, and the mosque killed the Magi. Many tribes have myths about the hand of God. In fact, it's been called the basic myth of North America. Hero twins we'll call Nemesis and Nibiru were born from the death of their mother, the old sun goddess. A saintly child you can call Lodge Boy was raised by the sky god, the bearded great spirit of the north. The other, not so good, called Spring Boy, was raised in the underworld by Red Woman. They became great hunters and shared adventures like Gilgamesh and Enkidu. In doing so, they became a great threat to everyone else. So the people clamored to the Great Spirit that the wild child must be put to death. Great Spirit cast a sleeping spell upon the boys and gathered up Spring Boy to carry him away. They flew through a portal near the central post of the sky. Lodge Boy woke, taking the form of a flaming arrow, and followed the streak of light across the sky to catch up with his friend. Great Spirit went to block the hole with a great dark star to keep them from returning. Spring Boy swung his axe, striking off the great hand, saying, "This time your hand has committed a crime. Let it be for a sign to all the people of earth." Whites call it Orion or the Phoenix. Indians call it the hand star. One of the mysteries of Jesus' crucifixion appears to have been to remember the sacrifice of the Earth Mother, life here, at the hands of her husband, the Great Spirit. The tiger eye shows another eye of the phoenix in the time of the ram. The stone at the left shows the ancient scythe representing the mastodon or heron. Flip it upside down and it represents Leo, the water jaguar. The other stone shows something huge next to Orion, which I now believe to be near Pegasus and Aquarius, a great blue object with a red companion on the other side of the sun. The crucifixion on a cross remembers Crux as again risen with Virgo Leo. On the back of that Hongshan crucifix is an engraving of one of the dippers, a sign, I think, that now the North must again suddenly come into play, as did Orion versus Scorpio or Leo versus Pisces thousands of years ago. Flip your hand around. That's what happens when three stars approach conjunction. It all goes very fast. The Celtic cross from Sligo, Ireland, remembers the day Inanna fell from grace when the first of Aries stood in line with Virgo on another fatal autumnal equinox half a precession ago. My ancestors were digging caves into the banks of the Columbia River, paying attention to what the frogs were doing. A great fire followed. The ancients tried to warn us, carving a great lion near the pyramids built to match Orion's belt. And even when they updated it with a woman's face for Aquarius, we missed the lesson. A timely warning for us. Well, I guess I've rambled long enough. Just try to remember as the drought gets worse and the sky begins to fall and government high-handedness seems the only answer to all of the world's problems, a better time is coming. Watch for a real savior very soon who will know how to unite the world's wisdom in something that makes better sense than your plagiarized Bible or Quran or Kolbrin or Bhagavad Gita or a Satyaveda. I really think Glynn Thomas's recent 5-book set is a start in the right direction. Some 2,060 years ago, the Roman poet Virgil announced, "The last great age, foretold by sacred rhymes, renews its finished course. Saturnian times roll round again, and mighty years, begun from their first orb, in radiant circles run. The base degenerate iron offspring ends. A golden progeny from heaven descends. O chaste Lucina, speed the mother's pains and haste the glorious birth. Thine own Apollo reigns. The jarring nations he in peace shall bind, and with paternal virtues rule mankind." I can't tell you exactly when the darkness begins and the world will spin and the oceans tumble over the land to the drumbeat of earthquakes and volcanoes. My suspicion is that we're as close to the end as we've ever been, but God might give us another month or 3 to get our hearts right. Pray for wisdom and understanding. They may not bring you wealth, happiness, or a full belly, but they will give you peace in a world gone mad. Shema bless you and keep you now and forever. Take care.